The cameras were rolling, the lights were glowing, and Shen Yue stood at the center of it all, smiling with the grace of someone who had mastered the art of hiding her pain. To the world, she was the radiant star of the moment, adored by fans and envied by rivals, but behind her carefully painted smile, a storm was waiting. And that storm had a name. Whispers spread across the set before she even saw him. Crew members exchanged uncertain glances, assistants lowered their voices, and for a moment the buzzing energy of the production froze. A figure walked into the studio, tall, sharp, carrying the kind of presence that could not be ignored. Shen Yue's breath caught in her throat the moment her eyes fell on him. It was not a dream. It was not a rumor. Her past had walked right back into her present. This was the man she once loved with the kind of devotion that could set fire to the darkest nights. This was the man who vanished without explanation, leaving her shattered and forcing her to rebuild her world piece by fragile piece. And now he was here, but his smile carried no warmth. His eyes held no softness. They burned with something colder, sharper, something vengeful. The room felt smaller as he walked toward her. Every step was heavy with history. Every glance from him reminded her of nights they once spent whispering promises under the stars, promises that were broken as quickly as they were made. She tried to steady her breath, to keep her composure for the cameras, but he stopped right in front of her, and for a brief moment it was just the two of them. "Did you miss me?" he said, his voice smooth but carrying the weight of years of silence. The question was simple, but the intent behind it cut deeper than any wound. Shen Yue wanted to turn away, to hide the sudden tremble in her hands, but her pride kept her rooted. She forced a smile, though her heart pounded so loudly she feared the entire crew could hear it. The tension spread like wildfire. Wang, who had been standing just a few feet away, shifted uncomfortably. His eyes flickered between Shen Yue and the man before her, confusion written across his face. The fans watching the live stream had no idea what they were witnessing, but the chat section was already exploding with speculation. Who was he? Why was he here? And why did Shen Yue suddenly look like she had seen a ghost? Then it happened. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. He held it up for Shen Yue to see, and in that instant her world tilted. It was a picture from years ago, a moment captured in secret, showing the two of them together in an embrace so intimate it could not be denied. The crew gasped, Dylan's eyes widened, and Shen Yue felt the ground beneath her feet begin to crumble. But it was not the photo alone that shook her. It was the words he spoke next. "Everything you built, every smile they believe, every secret you thought you buried. I am back to take it all apart, piece by piece, just like you left me." The room fell silent. No one dared to move. Shen Yue's lips parted, but no words came. Her throat was dry, her chest heavy. She had faced critics, haters, rivals on screen and off, but nothing compared to the weight of this moment. Her past was not only back. It was back with vengeance, and it was no longer willing to stay hidden in the shadows. The production team tried to intervene, but the man's eyes never left hers. Shen Yue could see the fury behind his calm facade, a fury that had been nurtured for years. It was not just about love lost. It was about betrayal, about wounds that never healed, about scars that never faded. And now he had chosen this moment, this stage, to unravel everything she had worked for. Dylan finally stepped forward. His voice was steady, but the edge in it was clear. "If you have something to say, say it. But do not think for a second you can intimidate her here." The man turned to Dylan with a smirk, as if he had been waiting for this confrontation. "And here I thought you might be different. But no, you're just another piece of her story. Do you even know who she really is? Do you know what she left behind to stand where she is today?" The words were poison, meant to strike deep. Shen Yue's heart raced. She wanted to stop this, to silence him, but she knew it was too late. The past had already spilled into the present, and no amount of denial could contain it now. The crew tried to call for a break, but the tension was too gripping, too raw. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every word, every tear that threatened to fall from her eyes. And then, almost as if to seal his intentions, the man whispered one final line, so low only she could hear it. You thought you buried me, but I am the part of your story that refuses to die. Shen Yue's chest tightened. She knew this was only the beginning. His return was not a coincidence. It was a storm long in the making, and now it had finally broken open. The stage lights flickered, the camera stayed on, and the entire world held its breath. For Shen Yue, this was no longer just a show. It was a battle for her future, with the ghost of her past standing right in front of her, ready to tear everything apart. The air inside the studio was electric, the kind of heavy silence that clings to the skin and makes every movement feel louder than it should. Shen Yue could feel her pulse pounding in her neck, but she forced her face to remain calm, her practiced smile unbroken as cameras captured every angle. Millions of viewers were tuned in live, their eyes locked on her, but all Shen Yue could see was him, the man she thought she had left behind forever. He stood there with a presence that demanded attention, his posture firm, his expression unreadable, his eyes carrying a mixture of pain and something far more dangerous. It was not affection. It was not longing. It was something calculated, as if every step that led him here had been planned with precision. The past was not a memory anymore. It was alive, standing in front of her, and it wanted something back. The host tried to break the tension, laughing nervously as they shifted to the next topic, but the audience knew what they were seeing was no ordinary reunion. Whispers stirred like a current of electricity. Some leaned forward in their seats, some clutched their phones to record, and others simply froze, unable to look away from the spectacle unraveling before them. Wang sat just a few seats away, his usual calm composure breaking slightly. His jaw was set, his shoulders tense, and his gaze never left Shen Yue's ex-lover. He knew immediately that this was not just coincidence. This was not a guest appearance designed for publicity. This was something raw, something dangerous, something personal. Then came the moment that shifted everything. The ex-lover reached slowly into his jacket and pulled out a folded letter. It was not a new letter. The paper edges were worn, the creases deep, as though it had been opened and closed countless times over the years. He held it high enough for the cameras to see, and the entire room seemed to stop breathing. His voice was low, deliberate, and every word carried like a hammer striking the floor. He said this was the truth she had hidden, the truth she never wanted the world to see. Shen Yue's chest tightened, her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. She knew exactly what was in that letter. She remembered the night she had written it, her hands trembling, her heart split between guilt and longing. She remembered how she sealed it, how she had given it away without ever realizing it would return to her years later, in a moment like this, with millions watching. The audience gasped as he began to unfold it. Each crease sounded louder than it should, echoing in the silence of the hall. The paper glowed under the studio lights, fragile yet powerful enough to destroy everything she had built. Dylan rose slowly from his seat, his movement subtle but powerful, as if a storm had just shifted direction. Shen Yue finally spoke, her voice steady, but her eyes heavy with pain. She asked him what he wanted, why he had chosen the stage, why he had come back after all this time only to bring her to her knees in front of strangers. Her words were calm, but every syllable carried the weight of years of buried emotions. He smiled then, not a warm smile, but the kind that chills the air. He said he did not come for reconciliation, he did not come for forgiveness. He came because he wanted her to remember, and he wanted the world to see who she truly was. He raised the letter higher, and murmurs rippled through the audience, like a wave about to crash. The host tried to intervene, placing a hand on his shoulder, urging him to sit down, but the man shook it off easily, never breaking his gaze from Shen Yue. His voice sharpened as he told everyone that the woman standing before them, the star they adored, was not as flawless as they thought. She was human, she was flawed, and she was guilty of betraying the man who once gave her everything. The crowd erupted in noise, half gasping, half whispering furiously. Social media exploded instantly, live comments flooding in by the second, hashtags forming in real time. Every second was being clipped, shared, dissected, and Shen Yue stood in the center of the storm with the cameras fixed on her face. She clenched her fists by her side, her nails pressing into her palms, but she did not let her tears fall. Instead, she took one step forward, facing him directly, her voice trembling but strong. She asked him again, was it revenge he wanted, or was it the simple satisfaction of seeing her break? He tilted his head, almost amused, and said it was both. He wanted her to feel the same helplessness he once felt. He wanted her to know that no matter how far she rose, the past would always find her. And that was when Dylan moved. He stepped into the spotlight, his tall figure blocking the cameras from focusing solely on Shen Yue. His presence silenced the chaos for just a moment. He looked directly at the man with a glare that could cut through steel. He said nothing at first, but the silence spoke louder than words. The audience erupted in cheers, some calling out Dylan's name, others chanting in support of Shen Yue. The ex-lover smirked, as if he had expected Dylan to interfere, but he did not back down. He lowered the letter slightly, but kept it in his hand, a weapon he had yet to fully unleash. The battle lines were drawn. The past stood on one side, unrelenting, vengeful, prepared to destroy. On the other stood Dylan and Shen Yue, together in the spotlight, facing not just a man, but a storm that threatened to shatter everything they had worked for. The letter was still unopened to the audience. Its contents remained a mystery, but its presence alone had already shifted the world around them. What it carried was more than words. It was a blade waiting to strike, a secret waiting to explode, and the moment it was read aloud would ignite a scandal the industry had never seen before. Shen Yue felt her chest tighten again, but this time, when she looked at Dylan, she found a small piece of strength. For the first time that night, she did not feel entirely alone. The cameras zoomed closer, the lights flared brighter, and the audience held their breath. The letter trembled slightly in his hand, not because he was weak, but because the weight of the moment had reached its peak. And then, with one slow, deliberate motion, he prepared to reveal its contents. The entire studio leaned forward. The world leaned forward. And Shen Yue braced herself for the storm that was about to break.
If this story had you hooked, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share it with everyone who loves mystery and drama. The next chapter is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.